Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Cult Potato, the Cult Movie Podcast. As always, I am Grady, and I am talking to my good buddy, my good friend, Campion. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, Grady. I'm doing okay.
Was that all I had to do?
I throw it to you once, and you're like, "That's it. I'm done. No more."
I copied your cadence and your mannerisms and your words perfectly. What more do you want from me?
Not my energy, Grady. Not the feel of it. You know.
Hold on, let me just move away from the microphone. Hey everybody, and welcome to Cult Potato, the Cult Movie Podcast. As always, I am Grady here, and then live on the Discord call is my good buddy, my bestest friend, the guy I've met since high school, like 10 years running at this point. Campion, you live in my city now, why ain't you in my room recording?
Because I had stuff to do tonight, and I completely forgot about it.
There you go. Are you happy with that energy instead?
Yeah, I'm slightly more happy, Grady. In fact, I'm it's nice I've moved halfway across the country. Just so happened to end up in the same city that you live in. You know, not that I was intending to come over and stalk you. I just
to clarify that I moved to like a month ago.
That you moved to a month ago, yes. No, I just so happened to get a new, much better job, and the job required me to move over to Wellington with you. Well, not with you. I mean, we're still in two completely separate houses.
I was going to do The Rock, jumping in there, but I Campion, we're talking about Community. This is a cult movie podcast.
I was going to lead into that, Grady. Oh my goodness. Wow, you're just... Oh, man.
You're tyrannical like this when you lead. You always tell me I'm going off topic.
Well, that's just it. Whenever I have you lead, you're losing the show. You don't know how to do segues or transitions. I was going to go, I'm really happy, to be up here and welcoming this new community. Speaking of which, see, Grady, that's how you do it. That's how the master does it, alright?
Fine. Campion, it's great to have you in this awesome
the
community.
The moment's gone. Anyway, community, Grady. We both absolutely adore this show. This is my personal favorite, all-time favorite TV show.
A great cult movie. The best even.
Cult movie. It references many cult movies.
It's true, we did a whole season about them.
Yes. Well, quote-unquote cult movies, which you insist are.
Look, it's a great TV show. It might get a movie. And so, the two words, cult and movie, both appear when you're talking about Community.
6 seasons in a movie.
One day it'll happen.
Yeah.
This is going to be completely out of date, and they're going to announce the movie before when this releases, and we're going to look a fool.
Oh, probably. I've seen Dan Harmon, he's made a few... he said quite a few things about it. It's like, oh yeah, that's definitely getting made. It's definitely going to happen. And I think he recently said something about that in an interview, but who knows? Anyway, this is Community, an ensemble comedy series in 2009, created by Dan Harmon, who has done a number of things. Probably his most well-known is Rick and Morty, and of course this served as the springboard for a lot of people's careers. Joel McHale, Alison Brie. Dan Harmon went on to do a few great things. The Russo brothers did some directing work for this, and of course they went on to direct the Avengers movie, Avengers 3 and 4. Danny Pudi, and of course, probably the biggest breakout star from this whole thing, Donald Glover, who has been in everything?
Quite possibly.
Yeah, everything from Star Wars to, I'm pretty sure he was in a few Marvel. He was in some of the Spider-Man movies, wasn't he?
The Sony Across the Spider-Verse one, I believe he was in. And I might have also been in the first other one as well. Not 100% on that.
Yeah.
Don't make me click on his IMDb.
And of course he had a very successful rap career under Childish Gambino. Which, fun fact, he got that name from an old Wu-Tang Clan name generator.
Not a bad generation name. Like, usually when you do those, they come out really bad.
Yeah. And so, okay, great. You want to just give us a quick primer to, like, the plot and setup of Community?
Yes, I'd also like to mention he was in Spider-Man Homecoming as Aaron Davis, and he also voiced Miles Morales in Ultimate Spider-Man, the TV show. There we go.
Okay, I didn't know that. I think he also voiced Simba in the Lion King quote-unquote live-action remake that Disney made.
Yeah, quote-unquote.
Yeah.
All right, yes,
I honestly thought, it's like, oh, well, the backgrounds are live-action. I think the backgrounds are also CG, Grady.
Oh, quite possible. That whole film. That's not what we're here. You asked me for a summary of Community. Basically, we have our eclectic characters who all take Spanish 101 at a community college.
Greendale Community College, to be specific.
Run in air quotes by the dean. And, they're a diverse group of characters, spanning races and genders and ages, and they come together for all of the comedic bits and pieces. And they lasted 6 seasons with some characters coming and some characters going, but still that central table sitting in the library, in the study room for them to all gather around and continue to have their hijinks.
Yes. And, okay, because we haven't really done a television series before, and so I imagine we tend to jump around a bit. And
this is going to be the worst jumping around you have ever experienced on this podcast.
Incredibly unstructured. But, I'm going to try and introduce some form of
I'm going to also try and keep the length of this episode to not 2 hours.
All right, so I think the best place to start off with is our cast of characters, because as I said earlier, this is definitely an ensemble. Like, in the first season, while they were trying to find their legs, it definitely had a big focus on John McHale's character, Jeff Winger. But as it went on, it sort of broadened its scope, and it focused on... It had sort of divided the focus up evenly among, like, the various cast members that make up our core group here. So, why don't we start with the show's nominal main character, Mr. Jeff Winger. Again, played by John McHale.
I'm going to just ask you a question out the onset here. Obviously, you've seen Community 150 million times. How much did you rewatch specifically for this episode?
I rewatched a good chunk of it. I rewatched... I always, on my rewatches, I always tend to skip season 1 and season 4, because those are always considered like the weakest ones. One, because that's when they were just... It's not bad. It's definitely still pretty solid, but it's when they were trying to find their legs and they hadn't really figured out quite yet what they wanted to do with the show. 4 really isn't that good. That was the season Dan Harmon got... the gas leak here, yeah. When Dan Harmon got kicked off the show, and in 5 they brought him back. So,
okay. So
I did rewatch a bit of those, but I mostly focused around season 2, 3, and 6.
I'm gonna let you lead as the expert on all of these. I rewatched about 12 episodes throughout, some of my favorite ones, including not my favorite ones, but like the first few episodes. And you asked me about Jeff Winger, and I took maybe a few notes because I know the show pretty well, and I'm pretty confident in my ability to remember bits and pieces of it. But you're correct. My 2 notes I wrote were, man, that was a rough first few episodes.
Yeah.
And Jeff is an unlikable asshole in these first few episodes.
Like, don't get me wrong, being like the asshole of the group is his thing, but he's the likable asshole. Like, he's a dick, but, you still
in later
root
pieces,
for him.
yes.
You still like him, but in the first season, he just comes off as like a tad creepy and just really entitled.
Yeah, I think that's, like, you talk about, like, season 1 and then onwards of the show getting its legs and finding its footing and all of that. I think really that just has to do with toning down the Jeff Winger character. Both, how important it is to the story, and also, as you say, making him into more of the, like, lovable goofball kind of guy who's, like, thrust into leadership roles even though he doesn't want it kind of thing.
Yeah. And Well, even though he doesn't want it, but then secretly he really does want
Oh, he really wants it.
Please don't leave him out. But yeah, I think a lot of it is also that he was more of the straight man in the first season. Like he wasn't as much of a, as you said, he wasn't as much of a goof as the rest of the cast, and he was just like, oh, I'm the ordinary, straight man. Oh, look at me, I'm with all of these crazy characters, and it just made it just less interesting to watch as a character. He came off very much as like the generic sitcom protagonist.
Yeah, I think with all of the main study group characters, and arguably the Dean and Chang as well, like if you want to throw them in there as a part of the ensemble, season 1 really started off with all of them. It felt like you had maybe 1-2 words, and that's what the character was. And they were just very one-dimensional stereotypes, and that's how they started off in season 1, and then it felt like, 2, 3, and onwards, they developed into actually being interesting characters, with their flaws and with their extra facets and all of this. It wasn't just, Annie is innocent, Britta is the rebel, Shirley is the mother, Pierce is the creepy, Jeff is the asshole, Danny Pudi has Asperger's.
Is autistic.
And Donald Glover is a footballer. That's all season 1 is.
It's really weird going back and seeing, like, season 1 Troy, because I think him and Britta have the most wildly different characterizations in the first season than they do in the later ones. Because, Britta, she's intelligent, she's headstrong, and she's a rebel. Whereas in the other, it's like, oh yeah, she knows what's going on, she knows what's up. And then in the later seasons, she's just like this ditzy, dumb kind of up who wants to do the right thing, but like just doesn't really get there. And Troy, and this is like, oh no, I'm the jock, look at me, I'm masculine, I'm really into football. And then the later seasons, he's just really weird and he's just as weird and off the wall as Abed, although he's, the more grounded of like the two of them.
Yeah, and I think that's like, you can see that evolution playing out in real time if you rewatch the series from season 1 onwards. The episodes I did rewatch, I was watching with my partner who has not seen any of Community. And
really?
It was really rough to keep them on the couch after episode 1 and 2. They were like, I want to go. And I'm like, no, I promise it gets better. It gets better. It's one of those shows.
Yeah. Also, I swear season 1 just had more budget than most of the show, because they film a lot more outside and stuff. Whereas in the later seasons, it did feel like they were really, like, hamstrung on their budget.
Yeah, my way of keeping them around on the couch is I just threw on Modern Warfare, the paintball episode, and we were good to go. But we will get to the paintball episodes entirely. Yes. You asked me about Jeff Winger 10 minutes ago, and I've gone off.
Jeff.
I think he's a great character, but not his season 1 version for sure.
Yeah. Once he starts to develop his more sympathetic qualities, like how... That's why season 3 is always my favorite, because that's the season where, everyone, they've gone through everything, but now they're genuine, like, friends. Like, they really, really care about each other. And, they're more open about it. It's like, hey, I actually like spending time with you people. I want to be around and stuff. Like, the season opens with Jeff going crazy, or because he can't hang out with them in the study, like, as a study group anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because really, Jeff goes through, as you say, like that arc, and at the start of the arc, he didn't even want the group. He just wanted to get with Britta, and then towards, season 3, he all of a sudden needs the group to function.
Yeah, because the way he's characterized is that he's like a big shot lawyer. When it found out that he faked his legal degree, he has to go back to community college to earn it, as quickly as possible, so he can go back to being a lawyer. And he's characterized as this person who's very self-centered and selfish. He's never really had a close group of friends before. And Yeah, and it's a lot of it's over time. Like, sort of the middle point of his arc is learning to accept that, hey, he does need friends and he does want to be around these people. And then sort of the remaining arc of that is learning, like, just sort of figuring out how to be his own person again, especially in the last season where he realizes that, people are going away. Pierce is dead. Shirley and Troy have already moved on to different things, and, and Abed and Annie are going off to, to try and go for the careers of their dreams, and he just kind of has to let them go after getting so close to them. And it's a very nice kind of arc, like, I want to be alone, I really want to be around people. Okay, well, sometimes you have to let the people you care about go their own way. It's a very neat kind of arc.
Yeah, I'd say in terms of story arcs, Jeff probably has the most complete one. Everybody else experiences stuff, and as we say, they transform from their season 1 versions, but this probably comes from him being the nominal main character, that he does have such a nice arc throughout all of it, and he did stick around for the later seasons where, some of the cast members moved on, and so you did get to see that sort of come full circle, complete itself, and come out the other end, where he's definitely more likable.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and from that, we've already talked about her a bit. You want to move on to Britta?
Yep, just like I Britted that intro.
You Britted the out of that intro. 2 curses that you've already had to censor.
3.
I'm making up for lost time. I haven't seen 3. Oh wow, I'm really going hard today.
For those who don't know, when I record this, I have a notebook next to me that just says Campion swore, and I write down time codes so I know when I'm coming through to edit to get rid of them.
Yeah, well, I just haven't done it enough lately, and I feel like I need to do more of that for you.
You're right, last episode you didn't swear at all.
Okay, back to the lovable Britta, of course, played by Gillian Jacobs. Like, I have to be real. Season 1 Britta is one of my least favorite characters on the show because she was just really shallow. There wasn't anything there. Like, it was just very obvious that she mostly existed as like a goal for Jeff to sleep with, which again contributes to him being so insufferable. That's his goal. That's all that he wants, And then over time, because she's very uptight, she's very serious about, I care about these social issues. It's the quintessential, I'm in college, I'm the college rebel. And even though I'm pretty sure she's like one of the older members of the cast. I'm a college rebel, and that's kind of it. But then, once she starts to develop her more of her quirks, that, stuff that's actually, funny and fun, and we find out, originally I thought it was going to be something like how she had a sad childhood and how she, had a really crappy upbringing, but then you find out she actually had a really good and supportive upbringing. Or am I misremembering that? I remember her parents. There was an episode where her parents showed up, and they were really supportive of her.
Yeah, I think you're right about Britta as the character as a whole. For me, she peaked when she started doing the psychology,
yeah,
and just sort of diagnosing people randomly. Not that she didn't do that in the very first season. I believe she told Abed to go look up Asperger's. As, something he might have, but that was peak comedy. And there's arguably in the later seasons a lot less of that one-dimensional straight man character that we said both Jeff was doing and Britta was doing in the first season, and everybody is just, I guess, hitting all the notes with their comedy. Britta's doing it, Annie, everybody's got out there and doing their bits and pieces.
That's why whenever I hear the phrase, I lived in New York, I cannot help but piss myself. That is still really goddamn funny. And in fact, just to bring it back to like Britta's whole psychology thing, that leads to what is, in my honest opinion, one of the best episodes of the show, and easily their best Halloween episode. The one where she diagnoses like one of them as like a psychopathic murderer, and they need to figure out which one, so they start telling like Halloween stories. Great episode.
Yeah. I don't want to get too far into it because you said you had some structure, so I'm sure like favorite episodes and bits and pieces will be later on. But yeah, she's a great... Whenever we talk about any of these characters, if we do not explicitly state we are not talking about the season 1 versions, we're going to just talk about the rest. Britta is a great character to just insert her into anything, and it would make sense. She could just show up the next day with something completely stupid, and you'd be like, that's Britta.
Yeah, and it's great because something she shows is something that I have dubbed the Baldric intelligence curve, where the lower a character's intelligence goes, over time, the more lovable and funny they become. Of course, Baldric from Blackadder. And she starts out as being, pretty, and she was like next to Annie, she was like the intelligent one of the group. But then as time goes on, she slowly dips to becoming like easily one of the dumbest characters in the cast, with the exception of maybe, I immediately thought Ken Jeong. It's like, no, that's the actor's name. Chang, with the exception of Chang. But then again, Chang's just absolutely insane, so, who knows.
I'm assuming you mean of the main cast, because I can think of many secondary characters that might take that title.
There's a lot of very dumb people at the school, and
I think that's the point of the school.
And I looked it up, and apparently Gillian Jacobs, she actually requested that they write Britta as more of like a ditzy, dumb character, because she felt like, the season 1 version, as we've been saying, was a bit one-dimensional. She couldn't really do a lot with it, and ditzy is something that she'd played in the past, and she thought she'd have a lot more fun with it. And yeah, she was 100% right. That was definitely the better move.
Yeah, she nailed it.
Yeah. Okay, so from Britta, I'm going to let you choose next, Grady. Which one do you want to move on to next?
Let's go on to Adderall Annie.
Okay. I see what you're doing, Grady. I see what you're doing. You're knocking out all the white people first, Grady.
Was I?
Typical Grady.
I'm starting from the middle in IMDb.
Next, and I'm going to rail him for it. I just know it. And then you picked Eddie. It's like, I knew it.
I'm looking at IMDb, man. Okay.
I know. I'm looking at the same picture you are. And I know it's just like, he's gonna go to Annie. She's the next one.
Look, Danny Pudi Abed is just way too complex to hit you. I need to warm up into Abed, okay?
Okay, so, of course, Annie, played by Alison Brie, who has done just a lot. She's done so goddamn much since this. I believe she was actually also on, what was it? Mad Men at the same time. She, of course, did Glow, which you have never shut up about.
Should watch it. It's a shame it got cancelled.
I've heard that it's yes, I've heard that it's very good. She's had numerous roles. Well, she's worked with Dan Harmon a lot. I think she just loves working with him. She's of course done a lot of stuff for sorry. She's done stuff for Rick and Morty. I know she was also on okay, this isn't Dan Harmon, but I know she had a reoccurring role on BoJack Horseman. She played Diane. She's just done a lot. All right?
Let's not forget the Lego Movie, please.
Who'd she play in the Lego Movie?
Unikitty.
Of course. She plays that role very well.
Yeah.
She was of course on Dr. Ken, which was Ken Jeong's show. Who I believe he said that his goal was to get as many people from Community on that show as possible. I think Dan Harmon was actually on the finale of Dr. Ken.
Yeah, I'd believe it. I think I'm staring at the cast page, and I think Alison Brie is my favorite actor or actress outside of the main cast, outside of Community.
Yeah.
But the character of Annie, we are so going over time. Yeah, again,
we're only on Annie.
Started one-dimensional at the start, but truly grew into, so much more.
By far one of the best characters in the series. She has so many fantastic episodes and moments.
Yeah, I'd put her up there. I think the trio of Abed, Troy, and Annie is one of the best things that happened to the show. Putting them in a room together was just brilliant.
One of the strongest dynamics in the entire show.
And that's not taking anything away from the other cast members, but there was just, you could put those three in a scene and you got magic. Every time.
Yeah. I mean, there are literally scenes like, Troy in the bed in the morning with Annie was fantastic, like when they brought her on, or the one where Annie tries to host her own quote-unquote morning show.
Mm-hmm.
That's, like the little ending sequence they played at the end of the episode.
Yeah, it was just crazy, and those were the bits and pieces you saw of the dynamic, and obviously all of them in the room together, and then it develops with them moving in, and then now they're all in the same house, and you can get so many more hijinks out of them. It was just great.
Yeah. I think a lot of people really end up being drawn to Annie because she's just really high energy and fun. She was also one of the quirkier members of the group, but she can, because she's more, she's very intelligent, she can play like that stern, more serious. Like she'll either play on like the goofy side with Troy and Abed, or she can play the more stern and serious side with Britta and... I keep calling them. I keep having to stop myself because in my head I call them by their actors' names first.
Yep.
Not Joel. Give me Jeff. They're very similar. Can't blame me. They're very similar names.
I will blame you.
And I'm glad that they didn't end up going with the whole romance thing that was setting up with her and Jeff. And I like that it is acknowledged. It's like, it's a bit creepy. Maybe let's not do that. And it does sort of evolve. Well, kind of does, kind of doesn't, into more of like a mentor-mentee, kind of relationship.
Yeah, their dynamic definitely, it was not as strong. Like, they were trying to do the weird, like, Jeff is so suave, he could pull any woman in the study group kind of thing. Yeah. And they made the right call backing off that one for sure.
Yeah.
And he's young, we try not to sexualize her.
Even though I'm pretty sure she's like around the same age as Joel McHale.
Oh, probably.
How old is...
Does IMDb tell me that?
How old is Alison Brie? Just give me a quick
second. Joel McHale was born in 1971, Alison Brie in 1982.
Okay.
So she's about 40 now.
Okay, so there was a 10-year gap, but she was well into her 30s in this... when she was on this show.
Yeah, it was still the better idea than not. I'm going to agree with you 1,000 times. And, one of my favorite episodes that I always go back and rewatch is, I forget the exact title of it, Calligraphy Supplies. It's the bottle episode where Annie loses her pen.
I genuinely thought it was called The Bottle Episode.
No, I think another television show did that, that I don't recall, but yeah... Amazing Annie, I guess, freak out, when she's just gone over her limit. And she does that a few times throughout the show. Yeah. But it's great to see that dimension out of her where she's borderline psychotic about a pen.
Yeah. And, obviously we're going to be talking about that episode when we get to, the best ones. But it really does speak to the cast that when they're just given room to just kind of play their character, like there's no... Like, they're just stuck in one room and they just kind of have to play off each other. It really speaks to how they work as a cast to make those sorts of episodes work. Because they do that a few times, and those are some of, like, the best episodes.
Yeah, and... Yeah. I'm gonna try and stick to the proceedings and not skip ahead. Instead, I'm gonna make Campion choose the next character to talk about, and if he talks about Pierce, I'm gonna lambast him.
That was exactly who I was going to pick next.
Oh, you're picking only the white people, Campion.
Hey, I'm the only brown one here, alright? I have that privilege. That right, Grady.
Fine, you want to talk about Pierce? Because that sounds like exactly what he'd say.
No, it's just getting... I never should have brought that up, and now it's just getting weird. No, I wanted to do Pierce next because I feel like he's probably the most difficult to talk about. And I figured that, let's not leave him to last. Let's just head him straight on, right?
Yeah, his character is just the creepy old guy who they keep excluding because he's creepy and annoying and nobody really wants him to be there. And it turns out that was exactly his role in the cast, where he was creepy and annoying and nobody really wanted him to be there.
Yeah. Of course, Pierce Hawthorne, played by comedy legend Chevy Chase, who is known for, well, through like the 80s and 70s, I want to say, well, 80s, 90s. Chevy Chase was, of course, in some classic pieces of comedy film. I think, what's it called? Road Trip? National Lampoon. All the National Lampoon stuff. Vacation, that was it. Yeah, National Lampoon, Caddyshack, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, I'm too young for this. You're such an old man.
I am also too young. That's why I'm having to read off the IMDb list, because I've heard all of these, but I for the life of me, I could not tell you what these are, what a lot of these things are. I just know that they're very, very popular. Did he do Animal House? I know National Lampoon did Animal House, but I don't think he was in it. But National Lampoon's Vacation is probably like the big one, That's his big film. And yeah, so behind the scenes, he didn't get on well with the show's creator, Dan Harmon. And from what I've heard, Harmon, bit hit or miss. He is like a tad difficult to work with, although
he got fired for a whole season.
Yeah, he's had a few problems there. Although from what I've heard, the cast that he works with in general tends to get along with him quite well. Like from what I've heard, the cast, everyone except Chevy Chase on this, they all got along with him quite well, which is why they actually campaigned to bring him back in season 5. Although from what I've heard, even though Chevy Chase did rub people the wrong way, and he did get into some things, from what I've heard, he actually did respect the cast themselves. Like, he actually did, praise their work. Like, he didn't like working on the show, but a lot of that was directed towards, like, the writers, Dan Harmon especially. Mm-hmm. He's, praised the cast themselves a number of times. And from what I've heard, he's actually, he recently passed away, but up until his death, he was very close friends with Joel McHale. And in fact, Joel McHale played Chevy Chase in a biopic about Dan Hartman? Am I correct in saying that?
You're asking points I don't know.
Pretty sure. Let me quickly look.
I'm too busy fact-checking you. Give me a second. Yeah. Campion, I got some good news / bad news for you.
Oh, what?
Chevy Chase is still alive.
Is he?
Yeah.
I could have sworn he was dead.
No, I was pretty sure he was alive. That whole time I was trying to confirm. He is very much alive.
God damn it.
I'm not cutting that out. That's staying in.
Oh, could you please cut it out?
No.
Okay. Well, he's dead to me, Grady. I mean, he didn't really do anything to me personally to deserve it, but he's dead to me, alright?
What you meant was the Pierce Hawthorne character was dead.
Exactly. Also, Jeff McHale played him in a biopic about someone who has actually died. That's the reason.
Sure. Yeah, the Pierce character was, like, problematic, and some of the other characters are problematic in a way that's, like, really funny and it works out. Like, Ben Chang is probably one of the better examples of that. Pierce Hawthorne did start to grate. Like, if you told me one of the members of this cast has a beef with the writing crew, you wouldn't need to give me 2 guesses to figure out who it was.
Yeah. And a lot of it is honestly because the way they try to play is that, Pierce is old, so he doesn't quite understand how to socialize with a much younger, like, age group. And so he says things, which, to be honest, he doesn't actually intend. Like, they're like, oh, Pierce is racist, he's misogynistic, but he honestly isn't. He means well, he just doesn't get it, that he's just, being a bit, that he's just not saying the right thing, or that he, what I'm trying to say is he intends better than he portrays himself for the most part, except for season 4. And apparently season 4, funnily enough, the reason why he ended up quitting was because of the way his character was written in season 4, because that's when he went like turbo racist and misogynistic, like genuinely like pretty awful, and he just got sick of it and he left.
Season Dan wasn't even around for.
Yes, season Dan wasn't even around for. Almost as if they didn't understand his character. Like, Pierce's arc is him sort of learning to grow past that. And while he does keep those tendencies, you know, to grow into like a much better person, you know? And it's something that I didn't notice on my first couple of rewatches, because as I said before, I've watched this movie I've watched this series many times. But what we see is that there are a lot of moments where Pierce really starts to, you know, improve on himself, like the 2-part season finale for season 2, you know, where Pierce is the one who wins the big paintball game. Season 3 is where it really starts to shine, you know. I think the episode, like the video game episode, where, you know, he stands up to like this digital copy of his father, and okay, there actually is a Chevy Chase story about that episode. I assume you've heard it.
Go wild.
Okay, so what the ending was supposed to be was Chevy Chase. Well, is that Pierce was he would go up to Abed and he's like, it was supposed to be a connecting moment between the two, and he's like, oh, thanks for helping me out. I don't really understand video games, but you know, you do. And Abed, I believe it was something along the lines of Abed was supposed to hand him like a game cartridge or something, like, this is something that means something to me, so I'm kind of giving it to you. You know, like that last emotion, like an emotional connection to really seal off the episode. But Chevy Chase was just like, oh, no, I'm done filming. I'm not doing this anymore. And he just left. And so they kind of had to come up with something on the fly, which was why they had that scene with Abed connecting with Pierce's brother, who, funnily enough, was played by the same actor who plays Gus Fring in Breaking Bad. We actually get a couple of Breaking Bad people, like him and the guy who plays Mike Ehrmantraut. Wait, is that the character or the actor's name? I'm really bad with names, Grady.
You are really bad with names. I'm letting you sink because it's funnier.
But yes, that's me standing up for the Pierce character, because I feel that if Harmon had stayed on for season 4 and Pierce would have been written a lot better, I feel like we could have gotten a lot more out of him. And in fact, probably the best Pierce moment is in season 5, you know, after he's dead. And we have that going away scene for him with the study group, you know, when they're going through this lie detector test to read out his will, which is also one of the best episodes in the series, in my opinion.
Yeah, my problem with Pierce, and you saw it in a few episodes, he never really got his redemption, or he never really did anything to finish his arc. He was always, he'd take one step towards, you know, like becoming a better person, and then 3 steps back.
Yeah.
And so, unlike Jeff, you know, where he was an asshole and he turned into this better person, Pierce would just always regress. You never really saw him get above completely. He'd get above, stay above for a little while, and then like drop back down. I guess they needed somebody in that role.
Yeah, but it's something you wanted him to kind of move out of it. And I remember in one episode, like I think it's the episode where they go to a carnival, and he ends up hanging out with Chang because they're both trying to make the study group jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in fact, I think the best Pierce moment we get, like with actual like Chevy Chase playing him, is probably in the opening episode of season 3, where, you know, Jeff, they try to take biology, but he can't get in, and Jeff's really happy. But then Jeff gets kicked out, and then Pierce gets let in, and so then Jeff becomes like really jealous of Pierce, and then, you know, Pierce kind of has to take the bullet for Jeff to kind of help him save a bit of face. And that's what I wanted to see from him. If we had gotten more of that, you know, I probably would have enjoyed the character a lot more.
Yeah, they just needed to stick with redeeming him and stop taking steps backwards. Yeah. That's my opinion on the Pierce character. Yeah. I think the ending was probably required. At that point, I don't know if you could have redeemed him. He was quite grating. It it was what it was. I don't think too many tears were shed.
Yeah. I think he is consistently ranked as, like, everyone's... Like, even if you consider bit characters, like, everyone's least favorite character. Which, I mean, even in great shows, you gotta have that one. Like, everyone else is fantastic, you gotta have that one. And I think it just goes to show that, maybe don't piss off the writing staff of the show you're working on. Just, you know.
Yeah. We're 41 minutes in. Pick another character.
All right. Let's move on to Shirley.
Okay. And definitely began, again, as a one-dimensional character, just the mother of the group. You know,
who's super duper, like, obscenely Christian.
Yeah, we talk about them being the different, like, sections of society and stuff. This was the person who had to come to community college as a parent. And that sort
as
of
a single
adult
mother.
one.
Yeah. And next to Pierce, Shirley is someone who I did find grating from time to time, but she still had a lot of, like, really good moments in there. I think Shirley kind of stands as what Pierce could have been, although obviously even Pierce from the get-go was, you know, way more obnoxious than Shirley ever was, because she probably has, like, one of the more harrowing story arcs in the show, if you look at it, because she starts out, like, divorced and a single mother, going to community college, which in and of itself is, you know, a terrifying position to be put in. And then, you know, she ends up getting remarried, but then she's divorced again after she loses her business. She dumps more and more money into it, and she just loses it, and then that's what makes her husband divorce her that time, you know?
Yeah.
And then it kind of ends with her having to move away to go and look after, to go and look after her father, and because her father gets really ill. And if you look at it objectively, she has a really just awful time of it, you know?
Yeah, it's hard, right? Like, we talk about all the pieces about Pierce. I kind of want to copy-paste my opinions about Pierce into the Shirley character. I think she's probably the person who got put in her box and came out of her box the least. It was, you know, the anger, the passive aggression, the extremely religious views. She stepped out for a little while. She'd do some stuff, but she always sort of just stepped right back into that box. Yeah. And in a cast that was this good, that sets you back.
Yeah. And, you know, not to knock, you know, Yvette Nicole Brown, because she's absolutely fantastic. And because I think the thing is that, like Pierce, like, that all of her, like, motherly Christian stuff, passive aggressiveness, that is, like, the center for a lot of her comedy. And unlike Pierce, because Pierce is at his best when he steps outside of the little box he's in, but Shirley, to me, she has great moments both inside and out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I feel like Shirley is just kind of what Pierce could have been. Like, he would have been... oh, sorry.
Don't choke to death.
He would have been a much more likable character if we could have gotten maybe just a bit more of that. Because, again, Shirley does have some really standout moments, and one that I liked it, like, when she kind of... Okay, again, this is the moments that I'm thinking of right now are like the bits where she does kind of come out of her box a bit, like the Wild West paintball episode from the second season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where she's like, you know, played off as like this desperado cowboy kind of thing. And then the episode, and then the Mad Max post-apocalyptic episode from the 5th season, the one where Troy leaves. Mm-hmm. She's playing like, you know, like a kind of like she's like, oh, I'm like the mayor of this like weird floating city in the cafeteria.
Yeah, it's
and Meow Meow Beans. I can't believe I didn't.
Yeah,
that's
Meow
one where
Beans,
she's really inside her box, but it's really, really good because it plays off that real well. The Meow Meow Beans episode, but we will get to that when we discuss the best episode.
We're going to be here all night.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think Shirley, it's not necessarily like an afterthought, but she definitely wasn't in the front of the writers' minds.
Yeah.
You know, when you compare her to Britta, to Annie, to Troy, to Abed, to Jeff, you know, even to Chang at some points, she was kind of the butt of the joke a lot, and unfortunately, you got to put her in that same sort of position as Pierce, where I'm sure some people love her to the point of that, but I don't know if anybody's going to be listing Shirley as their favorite character from Community, for example.
Yeah. Like, to me, she's there as a really solid character, but yeah, I think you'd struggle to find someone that would list her as, like, their favorite.
It's a show of solid characters.
Speaking of solid characters, I saved these two for last, in particular, because you can't really talk about one with talking about the other. Grady, you want to talk about Troy and Abed?
It's too late in the afternoon, but I'm still gonna go with Troy and Abed in the morning. They were the best duo. You know, as much as we talk about Abed, Troy, and Annie being the best trio for dynamics, Abed and Troy, exactly what I said about those three, copy-paste these two, times it by 10. These guys were the best portion. You know, if there was a bad episode, or there was not necessarily a bad episode, but a worse episode, you could guarantee that one of these two was going to bring it, and something was going to happen. You know, they can do the emotional stuff, as you say, like in Troy's sort of final send-off episodes. There's some deep stuff there. Then there's, you know, them just building a pillow and blanket fort.
And then doing it the second time.
Doing it again.
With the Ken Burns-esque Civil War documentary.
You got just simple little, as you say, the tags at the end of the episode where it's just them. I think the first moment we've got of Troy and Abed was the Biblioteca rap at the end of, I think, season 2. Oh, sorry, not season 2, episode 2.
It's
episode 2.
The first episode. I'm pretty sure it's the first episode.
Oh, don't make me... Okay, I'm not going to look this up. That'll take too long. But in the very start of the season, and that kind of sets the tone for these two characters moving forward.
Beginning of season 2, they did that same rap. They did a similar rap, but with Betty White, which is also pretty great.
Look, I'm looking it up now. You talk about the two while I go find which tag it was in.
So you can't really talk about one with the other because they're just so inextricably linked with one another, both in terms of like their character growth and just all of their best bits tend to be together. Because, as you said before, Troy starts out as kind of this dumb...
It's a season
jock.
1, episode 2.
Ah, you were right. My mistake. Troy starts out as like this dumb jock, but he slowly grows into this... Well, I say slowly. By season 2, he's, you know, best friends with Abed, and he's turned into more of this, like, weird nerd, just like Abed, and, you know, they're always there. It's always those two guys, and then their kind of character growth together is both of them kind of trying to learn each other's boundaries, and Abed sort of trying to understand like how their friendship kind of functions. And I'm pretty sure nearly every best episode in the entire series, I would say features, but it features like the main cast that's centered around them. But it heavily features the two of them. Yeah. Of course, you have like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, where Abed is, you know, the dungeon master, and Troy, he was supposed to play Hector the Well-Endowed, but he ended up playing someone else. Remedial Chaos Theory, another, you know, where it's centered in like their apartment. Just a lot of really great moments, and something that I'm glad they kind of backed off from is that initially when they were writing it, apparently they intended, you know, those two guys duo to be played by Troy and Pierce. They wanted to put those two together. Well, they just realized, you know, especially since Donald Glover and Danny Pudi are like actual genuine friends, and their chemistry just worked so much better.
Yeah, it shows when it comes up onto the TV screen. And as you say, like, Donald Glover or Troy Barnes starts off this guy who'd never be seen with somebody like Abed. And then by the end of it, we're watching Inspector Spacetime together and pretending the floor is lava for an entire school day. It's such a character change. And if they'd stuck him as the jock the entire way through, he wouldn't be listed anywhere near the top of the tier lists when it comes to characters. And when everybody was sad, that Troy left or Donald left the show, as much as they lost a big thing by losing the character, I think it was that dynamic between Troy and Abed that was really the big loss. And that's why I'm kind of glad that, his final episode, it was focused so much on that dynamic and that friendship, because that is what we eventually lost in that season, as Donald moved on to his rapping career.
Yeah. Very successful rapping career, might I add.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. In fact, do you know how Donald Glover actually got a start in show business?
In show business? No, I don't.
Yeah. Okay. So, originally he started out as a writer on 30 Rock. That was like his first TV writing gig, by the way, on 30 Rock of all things. This big, critically acclaimed TV show. Have you seen 30 Rock, by the way?
I have, yes.
Yeah, I'm quite the fan. But he got that job because he sent in like a spec script for like a Simpsons episode, and somehow Tina Fey ended up seeing it, and she's just like, "This kid's amazing. I want him on my show." And so she hired him to write for 30 Rock. And in fact, he even has a cameo appearance in one episode. And that led, so he served as a writer on 30 Rock, and then eventually he got the job on Community, and then just springboarded into this massive career. But I just find it funny that the reason we have like Troy and Abed and his rapping career is because he wrote Simpsons fan fiction.
It's one way to start off, It's anyone listening to this who wants to get off and get into show business, start writing Simpsons fanfic. It might be Rick and Morty fanfic nowadays, but just start writing.
There actually are a number of people who did start out writing fanfiction, like from what I recall, like 50 Shades of Grey started out as Twilight fanfiction.
And it should have stayed that way.
Yes, and the person who wrote, I believe, the Divergent series started out writing like Hunger Games fanfiction or something like that.
Yeah. A lot of movies take inspiration from, or as you say, start as fanfics. I'm going to ask...
you could argue is like a good chunk of this series episodes.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some copy-pastes.
Well, okay, copy-pastes maybe. That's a bit harsh.
It changed my homework a little.
Anyway, the final two members of our ensemble, who I feel we can cover together, because, both of their stories are also linked quite.
I was going to ask how far into the cast we're going. Are we doing Ben? Are we doing Dean Pelton? Are we going as far as doing all the bit parts? Where are we going?
We'll do a quick once-over of bit parts, but I feel like the Dean and Chang are two that you really have to talk about.
And we're not going to talk about Season 6 mains.
I forgot! I actually do like them, though. I do like Frankie and...
Alroy.
The guy... what's his name? The
Alroy.
Guy play... Thank you. Alroy. Played by
Professor
Keith David.
Hickey? What about Professor Hickey?
I mentioned him earlier, because he's the guy who played Mike Ehrmantraut in Breaking Bad.
We just don't want to be here for 3 hours, okay?
Yes. I forgot Alroy's name purely because the moment I looked at him, I'm like, Keith David. That's all that I see that's all I think whenever I see him. I was like, oh, it's Keith David.
He had a really good fight with Roddy Piper for 20 minutes.
Yes, he did. And he also teamed up with Master Chief to fight off the Covenant and the Flood.
So Dean Pelton and Ben Chang.
Oh, and John Goodman. I completely forgot about John Goodman. Weisstein Laybourne.
Look, we can't be here all day.
No, and it's crazy they got John Goodman in this for like a reoccurring role.
Yeah, he was quite important to the storyline. I tried to explain that storyline because we didn't have time to do all the episodes, and I was like, hey, so there's this guy, it's an air conditioning repair school, and it's important, and there's the one true repairman, and there's this, and there's this, and there's this.
Annex.
Sorry.
Annex. And
it was really hard to try and explain to somebody, because it's the most batshit things ever.
It's just, and then there's the episodes where he's like has a ponytail and a beard, and he's like, I'm going through some things, alright?
Yeah. Look, just Chang and Pelton. Get through them.
You'll get through them. Of course, we have Dean Pelton, the crazy, superbly, well, not crazy, but the weird and quirky and just supremely incompetent Dean of Greendale Community College, and Senor Ben Chang, who starts out as the group's Spanish teacher, and then when it's discovered that he has no understanding of Spanish whatsoever, he becomes a student, and then a security guard, and he lives in the vents, and then there's the whole Changnesia storyline. Do we even want to get into that? That was a gas leak year kind of shit.
We don't talk about Changnesia.
Yeah, we don't talk about Changnesia. And then he just kind of becomes, one of the crew, and they kind of forget that he tried to literally murder them all and burn down the school.
Yeah, Chang has some wild arcs.
Yeah.
They are the true, as much as the main characters bring the comedy in their own ways, these are the true comedy relief characters. You can just put them into a scene and make them say the stupidest shit, and it's gonna be funny. You can make Dean Pelton dress up as a muesli bar and rap about a paycheck not showing up, and you make gold.
It was a peanut bar, thank you.
Sorry.
And on the IMDb page, one of the images they have is him rapping in that stupid peanut outfit.
It's amazing.
Oh, and it's great if you rewatch the scene, but you look at Jeff and Britta, they're both desperately trying not to just burst out laughing because his peanut rap is one of the funniest things put to television.
It's legendary.
Oh, man.
If you don't want to watch Community after this whole conversation, at least go watch the peanut rap.
And I love watching the peanut rap and going, that man has an Oscar. That man won an Oscar. It's kind of like I'm trying to Olivia
Newton
Cole,
John.
King John, yeah, but it's a bit like watching Olivia Cole's early work before she did all of her serious acting gigs in The Crown and stuff, and going back to her early comedy work and just thinking, that person has an Oscar, or that person is a critically acclaimed actor, as a grown man is in a peanut suit, just rapping.
Look, it's good rap.
Yeah. And Dean Pelton also stands out as having one of the most boring wardrobes and yet the most extravagant. Because his usual Dean outfit, just a pair of khakis and a plain beige shirt.
He was
and
barely ever wearing that.
Yeah, and then all of the absurd, just all of the absurd costumes that he wears. Played by Jim Rash, really talented man. Genuinely has an Oscar. He wrote he won a Oscar for a screenplay he wrote.
Yeah, I think, as you say, the Dean kind of probably just went into wardrobe and they were like, hey, pick a costume. Just grab something. And he would just come out and do his scene.
Also that one where he's dressed as half man and half woman, and he just stops and he's like, what am I doing? I have to go to the bank today. One of the best line deliveries I've ever heard.
Yeah, he's perfect. And I think it's the Dean's chemistry with Jeff, but just the Dean in general. There's so many favorite moments. When you sit down and you think about all this cast, and we've spent maybe 5 minutes on each cast member, you could spend 20 minutes on each cast member listing out, these were awesome moments and this happened and this happened, but...
Just this is something funny that they've done, and it's most of the lines they've said in the series.
Yeah, the Dean... I guess if you were going to go for percentage of lines that were bangers, probably wins out. I think every second line out of his mouth was a great line.
And of course, Kim Jong's another one, because when I see him greasing himself up to jump into the vents to chase a monkey.
To chase Annie's boobs.
Monkey called Annie's boobs, god damn it. Yes. I think to myself, that man is a qualified medical professional. That man is literally a doctor with a medical degree.
Look, I like my doctors to have a sense of humor, okay? This might be taking that a little bit further.
Yeah. But of course, King John. Like, I think if you take the Dean and Ben Chang, like it's like you said before, if we're looking at like the percentage of funny lines that they have, it's like the vast majority of stuff that they say, excluding the whole Chang. Okay, even the Changnesia arc, I find it weirdly endearing. Mostly because I remember season 5, first episode, they're just like, wait, didn't you have Changnesia? And he's like, no, they found me out. Get with the program. It's just like, yes, we've wrapped up the storyline. Now let's move on.
Yeah, we don't talk about Changnesia.
No. Okay, and with that, we'll just quickly run through all of the many one-off character, bit characters who are of course fantastic. Like,
what's your opinion on Leonard, Campion? Good answer. What's your opinion on Magnitude?
Pop.
What's your opinion on Starburns?
You were gonna do. I was gonna do that, and then you did it.
Nope. Making you do it. Can you think of a Starburns line?
My name is Alex.
Fair.
Garrett, who doesn't have like a catchphrase, but he just has like a bunch of just weird lines.
Garrett and Vicky, are both wildly just random characters.
Yeah. Of course, and Todd, literally, that poor man.
He's the butt of a lot of jokes.
Yes. And I love how the joke is that the group treats him like garbage, despite the fact that he's just genuinely a nice guy.
We also got Neil, for a lot of seasons, affectionately referred to as Fat Neil. Had quite a bit of an arc, but I'm sure you want to leave all of the talking about his character until we get to talk about specific episodes.
There's just so many. Of course, Ian Duncan, played by John Oliver, who I'm sure he didn't go on to do anything, did he?
No.
Nah, I'm pretty sure his career just kind of died with this.
Not important.
And as we mentioned before, Frankie, played by Paget Brewster, and Keith David, played by...
Keith David, huh? That's the character name?
Patashnik, played by Keith David. I can't see him as anything other than Keith David, alright?
Fine. I'll let you have it.
Every film that he's in, he plays Keith David.
Yeah, I would say that with this one for sure. Buzz Hickey, we talked about him. Jonathan Banks. Yes. There's so many characters here. Vicetine Laybourne, you also mentioned.
Yeah, played by John Goodman.
Just scrolling at this point. Dean Spreck, played by Jordan Black. Great in the paintball episodes. Vaughn, only in it for a short amount of episodes, but played by NCIS LA alum Eric Olson.
Who was Vaughn? You're going to have to remind me.
Britta's hippie ex.
Yes.
And the thing is, like, the odds that you showed up as a, like, one episode character was pretty low. Usually they'd bring you back, for just bits and pieces here and there, 2, 3, 4, 6 episodes.
Yeah. I love the scene where, like, they have all the bit characters standing outside the study room, and they're just like, so can we go in? And they're just like, no, they're looking for a pen. And I love the implication that, this small group of people just monopolizes the whole school, and everyone else is just kind of fed up with their bullshit.
To be fair, that is kind of how the show is written. They are the important people on campus, and the dean will do anything for them, so... Hey.
Yeah.
I think the dean would literally die for Jeff. I'm pretty sure he orgasmed due to Jeff's shadow. Okay.
Even his shadow! Look at his shadow!
That's all I'm going to say on that scene.
Jim Rash is a treasure. Someone should give that man an Oscar.
I think they did.
Okay, so we could be here all day talking about the
This
best
is
episodes.
already the longest episode of Cold Potato, I believe.
Yes. So what we're going to do instead, I'm going to take my favourite episode, and we're going to take your favourite episode, and we'll take it in turn to discuss it, alright?
Okay, one each.
First, one each, and hopefully it's not the same one, because we didn't discuss this beforehand, but we really should have. Grady, I'll let you go first.
No, you go first.
What is your favourite episode?
You go first.
Okay. My favorite episode. I feel like this is the one that everyone considers like the best episode, and
It's going to be Remedial Chaos Theory.
It's Remedial Chaos Theory.
Yeah.
It's kind of a basic answer for a community fan. It's like, oh, what's your favorite episode? Yeah, it's the Route 1 basic episode that everyone says is their favorite. It's a good episode. It's really well written, really well paced. It's a really interesting and fun concept. I like it, alright? It's not quite the Rashomon thing, but I like it when we're shown the same scenario from like multiple different perspectives or with multiple different takes on what's happening. You know, that's why I like the Halloween episode where Britta's diagnosing everyone so much. It's just a concept that really appeals to me, you know?
Yeah, and it's really well shot, isn't even edited, I guess. Like, just put together entirely. Written, shot, edited, bits and pieces. You just, as you say, you learn more and more about the scene as it goes on. Bits and pieces change. It spawned the entire evil Abed piece as well.
The Darkest Timeline. In fact, that's where I'm pretty sure that episode is what gave birth to the whole, like, Darkest Timeline as, like, a phrase. You know, it's like, I heard that a lot during COVID. It's like, we're in the Darkest Timeline.
Yeah. It's a great episode. Requires a little bit of, previous viewing to understand the entire point of Community, but if you've made it to season 3, you know it at this point.
Yeah.
And it's again got those awesome pieces of Troy, Abed, Annie, and everything popping off.
Yeah, it's just the cast playing off one another with a really well-written script, and they're just all going to town, and it's amazing. And from what I've heard, it was an absolute nightmare to film. It was really difficult. Because you'd think, you're just filming the same thing like 7 the same thing 7 times. Yeah, it turns out doing that over and over again is really difficult, and from what I heard, Community in general was difficult to film because they had really long filming days and a really low budget. So yeah, it was just difficult to film. But, it paid off because it is, the best episode in the entire series.
Yeah, I quickly tried to find, people who listed, the best Community episodes, etc. And I want to say, I'm just double-checking this last one, yeah. On Looper.com, on ScreenRant.com, and on EW.com, all 3 list Remedial Chaos Theory as the best Community episode of all time.
I think it's just because it's a textbook example of how to do, a bottle episode, or, a kind of closed, a really just tightly written, piece of media in with a limited setting, Because it's all just the characters playing off each other and all of that writing, and there's so many just really good, jokes in there. And I think we get to see the best and the worst of every character because we get to play through them all. And that scene at the very end, where they're all dancing and singing along to Roxanne after Jeff has to go and get the pizza, it's a great resolution to it, and it's just, and then we get that ending credit scene with the Darkest Timeline with the study group having to do all of that stuff and I've lost an arm, he lost an eye, Pierce is dead, and Britta has a blue hair streak, which she thinks is catastrophic, and I love it.
Yeah, I was trying to quickly find here, but from my memory, the using Roxanne in that episode used up almost the entirety of season 3's budget.
You're telling me that using a song from The Police, a very famous and well-known band, is expensive?
Yeah, it was very expensive for their budget, and so they used... the meme was that they used Daybreak 50 million times in the rest of the season because you just had no more money.
Which in and of itself became a really fantastic joke.
Yeah, it was just constant background music, and it was great. Roxanne was expensive, okay?
I love that song. Even though it's generic background music, I have grown to love it over the years.
I'll give it to you. I let you go first because I knew that would be the number 1 episode. Yeah. I was pretty sure you were going to pick that one. and it kind of deserved that sort of top billing.
Yeah. Well, no, that's my number one, Grady. What's your number one? Wait, was it also Remedial Chaos Theory?
No, I'm a simple man.
Okay.
And this is going to probably be no shock to anybody who's listened to the other episodes and know what kind of movies I like.
Or just the earlier parts of this podcast, because I'm pretty sure I know what it is.
Look, it's also slightly a cop-out, because it's going to be a bigger topic when we discuss it, I'm sure. I'm picking Season 1's Modern Warfare paintball episode. It opens it all up to all the paintball episodes here.
Yeah. I'm surprised you would pick the first one. I would have picked the two-parter from Season 2.
I rewatched both of them as a part, but it was, I guess, I'm picking that one symbolically. It was the first one where they truly tried to step out of, we're making this show that's about a community college, and then they just completely genre step and do something else that's wild and nutty, and now we're in a war, a paintball war.
And then like the whole, hey, this is the wacky and crazy direction that we want to go in. And I can see what you mean, because it really opened the floodgates for everything else we would get that makes the show great. Because they're just like, you know what? Let's just do Die Hard. And they did Die Hard.
Yeah, I would say that without this episode doing so well, obviously we don't have any future paintball episodes. We wouldn't have things like Abed's Christmas Story. Those were things that, you could take the risk because Modern Warfare showed you, hey, people love these characters, and you can make them go do whatever wild shit you want them to do.
Yeah. And it wasn't just because Jeff was doing Die Hard, but I love that Ken was doing like a John Woo movie.
Yeah. Nobody ever really got on the exact same genre. Even when we were doing Western, everybody was doing different Westerns.
Yeah, I love that.
Then we hit Star Wars, and everybody's all over the place again. It was, those episodes are just my favorite to rewatch. Like, if you are rewatching Community and you don't sit down and watch the paintball episodes, you're not watching Community.
Yeah. I feel like they're probably, even though Remedial Chaos Theory is considered, like, okay, the episodes we've chosen, they're considered amazing for different reasons. The paintball episodes, because they're big, they're bombastic, they're still hilarious, but they're also these big spectacles, and they're playing off genre, and they're really fun. Whereas the more bottle episodes tend to be more, it's closed, it's really, these are really intimate and smaller stories. They really play off with the writing because they don't really have anything else going on in the episode. It shows just how versatile the strengths of this show is, how they could do pretty much any kind of comedy they wanted, and they could make it work.
Yeah. And that's why, these were the two. There's other ones, like Advanced D&D, obviously, and other episodes that were like, we gotta watch this, we gotta watch this. Yeah. But
we can't go over all of them in detail, because then I've got work tomorrow, Grady. Like, I can't.
I gotta go cook dinner. I want to eat today.
Yeah. But we can briefly go over some of our favorites. Meow Meow Beans, which is a throwback to old dystopian 70s kind of sci-fi, which I love. How Britta has to play the revolutionary, but then there's that whole thing with the mustard on her face, which I never got, but I still thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was way better than the Black Mirror episode.
Yes. Community did it first. There's the trampoline episode, where they okay, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the trampoline episode, but there's that bit at the end where they're talking and they're just like, wait, the trampoline guy was racist? I didn't see that coming. And then Jeff's like, did it? It's like, wait a minute. And then they think back to all the things he said, and it's stuff like, oh yeah, protection from all the darkness in the world. Oh, we need to keep this place clean and free from stuff. And then it just shows him with like a swastika statue on his swastika tattoo on his chest, and he's like, oh, it's gonna be I can't remember what he said, but it's like, oh, it's gonna be a windmill. And they're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's a straight up swastika.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the Apollo 13 parody, where they're in the space, in the KFC
KFC
rocket.
Yeah. You threw out the Halloween episode earlier. I'm just going to say all the Halloween episodes. They're another brilliant category, much like paintball.
Definitely. The Christmas specials were also very good. We had they did a Christmas special, which was also a Glee parody, which for the longest time was my favorite episode. They also, of course,
love to make fun of Glee.
Yes, they did. And Jim Belushi.
There's a few things.
Yeah. And Marvel movies in the later seasons.
Yeah.
What was the name of the stop motion one they did? Abed's
Uncontrollable Christmas.
Thank you. The paintball episodes, as we mentioned, there's multiple. The first one parodies Die Hard. The second one does both Westerns and Star Wars. The fourth one, the one from season 4, I was never a fan of, but then again, that's the Gas Leak season. That's when they have the dark evil clone, like copies themselves, come over to our universe. But then it turns out Abed was just imagining the whole thing. The one in season 6,
that one. It's like
the one in season 6 was really good. Although that was more of like a hitman kind of spy thriller kind of one.
It was a very satisfying conclusion to the whole paintball arc, having the janitors rise up, for sure.
Yeah. And, I forgot to mention, Nathan Fillion plays a janitor in season 5 and 6. I completely forgot about that.
Yep. I'll throw in Pillows and Blankets, both versions.
Yes.
I made sure to rewatch Intermediate Documentary Filmmaking, which is the one where LeVar Burton shows up. Pierce is sort of just messing with everybody's heads when he was at his best.
The second time he did that was after his passing in season 5.
Another great episode.
Another fantastic episode. There's a lot, and at this point we're just listing off episodes. Any more you want to shout out before we
Jeff playing pool in some amazing gym shorts.
Yes. The Foosball episode's another classic.
Pulp Fiction episode. Cooperative Calligraphy, I mentioned it earlier. It's pretty high up on my list of favorites as well. Even though it's not a paintball episode, as you said, the Mad Max, Floor is Lava episodes, I count them. Yeah. I think that's pretty much all the big hits. I think we Conspiracy Theories and Interior Design. I rewatched that one.
You're gonna have to remember which one that is.
That was...
Oh, wait, no.
Professor Professorson.
Yeah, Professor Professorson with the fake class Jeff is taking. Turns out that actually exists. That's a fantastic
And there's like
episode.
15 layers of lies and subversion at the end of it. It's great.
Oh, and another classic. This will be the last one before we wrap up. Is one of my favorite season 3 episodes. Season 3 is a banger.
Season 3 is a banger.
That's the best season. It is. So many good episodes.
I'd say no misses, but I don't have the episode list in front of me.
Yeah, most of them are hits. Like we have the video game episode on that one, but we also have I believe it's Curriculum Unavailable, where that therapist they go and see tries to convince them that their entire time spent at Greendale never happened. They were in an insane asylum.
Yep.
Oh, man. Okay, I feel like we've reached the long trek to the
we went over time
discussion about Community. Before we wrap this up, Grady, anything else you want to say?
No, I think there's a reason Community's on here. It's honestly a great show. I hope they've announced the movie by the time this airs. If not, it better be on its way. It's something that, there's bits and pieces that don't age well, but in general, the show is still very good. I don't think that's through rose-tinted glasses. Obviously, once we got through the first few slogs of an episode, it's really that first half of season 1.
The second half was when they really started to find their legs.
Yeah, so if you skip those first chunk of episodes and
season 4
and skip season 4, then it's still a really enjoyable show. That's worth a good watch. That's all I got. What are your final notes? Just drive us over the hour and a half point at this point.
Okay. Just to reiterate, Grady.
That was a joke. Please don't.
Fantastic show. It's my all-time favorite TV show. I've rewatched it many times, and I'll rewatch it many years to come. I've rewatched it every year since I first started watching it. Well, since I marathoned the whole thing back in 2004, no, it wouldn't have finished. 2014 is when I watched it, but I think the final season still hadn't come out at that point. Yeah, I adore it to bits. It's absolutely brilliant. It's got some brilliant writing, and yeah, I'm really glad that pretty much the entire cast has gone on to have fantastic careers. So that just makes me really happy.
Am I still the host, or are you the host?
Why don't you close us out, Grady?
Alrighty, Campion, then why don't you let the viewers know what the next episode of Cold Potato is gonna be about?
Oh, I was about to say, you didn't tell me, but no, you did. You told me last week.
Are you sure you don't want to be the host?
A lot's happened in a week, Grady. I've moved halfway across the country. I've started a new job. I'm in a new house. I've had a lot, alright? I've completely forgotten what the next one is. Wait, is it Futurama?
It's Futurama.
Yeah, okay. There we go.
Look, we're going to jump a little animated, and, we're going to continue that greatest hits 1999 all the way through to 2013, coming back this year, or next year, I believe. Absolutely great animated show. I didn't talk to you about the budgets or how much it made on these TV shows. I'm not going to do that, full stop.
Yeah. Community. Did it make money? No. I believe it cancelled the streaming service.
Multiple times. And that's the same with Futurama as well. Futurama came and went. It went through 6 cancellations. It's back. And we'll talk all about that on the next episode.
And it's going to get inevitably cancelled again.
I'm sure it will. Well, it's been great on this episode of Cult Potato, the Cult Movie Podcast for Lexicon of Lore. I've been Grady, he's been Campion, and we will see you all in the next episode where we talk about Futurama. Is that a good finish? Did I do it good?
No. Shit.